Hello, welcome to another video on our channel. Here, we translate testimonies from people who have had near-death experiences and other spiritual experiences. Today, let's learn the story of Serafina Caldwell. She says that she died, was guided by a being, and received shocking revelations about future events that will occur in August 2024. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. Leave a comment with your name and city. Let's now listen to Serafina's testimony. My name is Serafina Caldwell, and I have an extraordinary story to share with you. Until a few months ago, I was just an ordinary woman, living a life that many would consider routine. Married, with a normal job, I spent my days balancing everyday responsibilities with moments of silent introspection. I've always been a reflective person, with a lingering feeling that there was something beyond what our eyes could see. Although I've never been particularly religious, I've always felt a deep connection to the universe, something I couldn't explain in words. It was as if there was a latent knowledge within me, waiting to be awakened. This feeling, this intuition, in a way prepared me for what was to come. What I am about to tell you may seem unbelievable to some. It is an experience that defies logic and conventional understanding. It was a journey beyond this world, a revelation of what is to come and a mission entrusted to me. It was much more than a simple near-death experience. It was an awakening, a complete transformation of my being. I know that sharing this story opens me up to skepticism, and sometimes even ridicule. There are times when I myself question whether all this really happened. But the truth is, this experience was more real, more vivid, and more impactful than anything I've ever experienced before. She transformed me profoundly and gave me a new purpose in life. I'm sharing my story not to convince anyone, but in hopes that it might touch those who are ready to listen. If anything I say resonates with you, perhaps it's because you too have a role to play in what's to come. Because, believe me, something is coming. Something that will change everything we know. Understood. I will continue the narrative, keeping each topic to exactly 350 words. Here are the next two topics. It all started on a seemingly ordinary night. I was lying in bed next to my husband, Elliot, trying to fall asleep after a tiring day. We had argued earlier about something trivial, and there was still tension in the air. I closed my eyes, trying to relax, when suddenly I felt a crushing pressure in my chest. It was as if all the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I tried to breathe, but I couldn't. Panic began to take over me, but something inside me, a voice, an intuition, I don't know for sure, told me not to fight. And then, in an instant, everything was calm. The pressure disappeared, and I was overcome by an indescribable peace. It was at that moment that I realized something extraordinary was happening. I opened my eyes and found myself floating above my own bed, looking down at my motionless body lying below. It was a surreal feeling. I could see Elliot in the kitchen, completely oblivious to what was going on, but the strangest thing was that I didn't feel afraid. There was just a quiet curiosity, like I knew everything would be okay. I watched my own body for a moment, fascinated by the strangeness of the situation. It was me, but at the same time it wasn't. I tried calling Elliot, but no sound came out. It was then that I realized I was no longer connected to my physical body. I floated around the room, experiencing a lightness and freedom that I had never felt before. I walked through the walls as if they didn't exist. The physical world seemed to have lost its solidity, becoming almost translucent. It was at that moment that I noticed a soft light starting to appear. At first, it was just a faint glow on the periphery of my vision, but it quickly grew in intensity. I felt irresistibly drawn to her, as if she were calling me home. The light that enveloped me was like nothing I had ever experienced before. It wasn't just bright, it was alive. It was love in its purest form. It was security. It was like coming home after a long journey. Every particle of my being vibrated in harmony with this light. Within this luminosity, a presence manifested itself. It was not a defined figure, but an essence that seemed strangely familiar. It was as if I had known her for a long time, maybe forever. This presence guided me without words, just with a clear and loving intention. I felt completely safe and welcomed. Every worry, every fear, every doubt simply dissolved in the presence of this light and this being. It was like I had finally found my true home. Communication with this guide was unlike anything I had ever experienced. There were no words, there were no sounds. It was a direct exchange of thoughts and feelings, instantaneous and complete. I knew I was about to embark on an important journey. The guide took me through the light, to a place beyond human understanding, a space where time and space did not exist as we know them. There, I began to understand that my life would be reviewed, not as a judgment, but as an opportunity for learning and growth. As we advanced, I felt an expansion of my consciousness. It was as if the boundaries of my being were dissolving, allowing me to perceive and understand things that were previously beyond my reach. The guide gently prepared me for what was to come. I felt like I was about to see my life from a completely new perspective. There was no fear, just a deep sense of acceptance and a longing for understanding. And so, guided by that loving presence, I prepared to revisit the most meaningful moments of my life, knowing that each of them had something important to teach me. My life review was nothing like I expected. It was not a chronological sequence of events passing before my eyes. Instead, I was taken to specific moments that seemed to have been crucial in the formation of who I am. I saw myself as a child, hurting a friend with harsh words. But I wasn't just watching the scene. I was living it again. I felt the pain I caused not as an observer, but as if I were the person who had been hurt. It was an intense and painful experience, but there was no judgment, just understanding. I also revisited moments of love and compassion. Every act of kindness, every decision made from the heart shone like a star. I realized that these were the choices that really mattered, that defined who I was in essence. The review showed me that every action, every word, every thought has an impact on the world around us. I saw how small acts of kindness created ripples of positivity that spread far beyond what I could imagine. And I saw how selfish actions created shadows that affected not only me, but everyone around me. I noticed moments when I was brave and others when I gave in to fear. I saw the times I followed my intuition and the times I ignored it. Each decision, each choice, formed a complex and beautiful pattern, like an intricate tapestry woven over a lifetime. The most surprising thing was realizing that there was no regret. Every experience, even the painful ones, had its purpose. Every mistake was an opportunity to learn, every challenge a chance for growth. At the end of the review, I felt deep gratitude for every moment of my life. I understood that there are no good or bad experiences, only lessons and opportunities for evolution. I came away from this review with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of who I truly was. After the life review, I was taken to a different place. It was empty, but not in a negative sense. It was a space of infinite potential, where everything was possible. There, I found 4 presences. They had no physical form. They were more like pure essences of energy. Each of these presences represented a fundamental aspect of the human experience: love, wisdom, justice, and hope. They communicated with me in a way that transcends words. It was as if knowledge was simply transferred, instantly understood on a deep level. The essence of love enveloped me in a warm and comforting energy. I felt infinite compassion for all of existence. Wisdom shared with me visions of realities beyond my understanding, expanding my perception of the universe. Justice showed me the perfect balance of cause and effect in all things, and hope filled me with an unshakable certainty in the potential for growth and evolution of all creation. I received information about the future of humanity, about changes that are to come. Among these revelations was something about August 2024, a date that seemed to vibrate with crucial importance. I couldn't fully understand the meaning at that moment, but I knew it was vital. The soul guides showed me that we are at a turning point in human history. that the choices we make now will determine the course of our collective future. They entrusted me with the task of helping people prepare for these changes, to reconnect with their true essence. I felt the weight of this responsibility, but also a deep honor for having been chosen for this mission. The soul guides assured me that I would not be alone, that they would always be with me, guiding and supporting my steps. When the meeting came to an end, I felt transformed. He had received vast and profound knowledge, and now he had a clear purpose. I was ready for the next step of my journey. After the meeting with the soul guides, I was enveloped by a feeling of absolute unity with everything that exists. It was as if the barriers between me and the rest of the universe had simply dissolved. In this state, there was no separation, there was no self and other. Everything was one. I felt connected to every living being, to every particle in the universe. I could feel the love flowing through everything, uniting everything in an infinite web of connections. It was as if I could feel the pulse of each star, the growth of each plant, the thought of each being. Time did not exist in this state. It could have been a second or an eternity. It made no difference. It was a state of pure ecstasy, of unconditional love and deep peace. For the first time, I truly understood what it means to be part of something bigger. In this state of unity, I received more information, visions of the future, deep understandings about the nature of reality. I saw the interconnectedness of all things, how each action creates waves that spread throughout the universe. I understood that there are no isolated actions, that everything we do affects the whole. I experienced the collective consciousness of humanity. I felt your pain, your joys, your fears and hopes. I understood that, in essence, we are all one. Our differences are just illusions created by our limited perception. In this state, I also understood the true meaning of love. It wasn't just a feeling, but the very force that holds the universe together. It was the essence of all existence, the energy that flows through everything. Much of what I experienced in this state was lost when I returned to normal consciousness, like a dream that escapes upon waking, but the essence remained, the deep understanding that we are all one, that love is the most powerful force in the universe. When I finally began to separate from this unity, I felt a mixture of sadness and gratitude. Sadness to leave this state of ecstasy, but a deep gratitude for having had the opportunity to experience it. While I was immersed in this state of oneness, I heard a voice. He was gentle but firm. He told me that it wasn't my time to leave yet, that I had a mission to fulfill on earth. I confess that I was reluctant. I didn't want to leave that peace, that infinite love. But the voice insisted, reminding me of the purpose entrusted to me. And then, in the blink of an eye, I was thrown back into my body. The transition was abrupt and almost violent. I felt like every cell in my body was being readjusted, reorganized. I opened my eyes with a start, feeling intense pain throughout my body. My heart was beating fast, and the weight I had felt before leaving my body now seemed 10 times greater. She was panting, disoriented, struggling to understand what had happened. Elliot was next to me, worried. Apparently, he had found me unconscious and had called an ambulance. To him, I had only been out for a few minutes. To me, it felt like I had lived several lives in that time. The paramedics arrived and began to examine me. Their faces showed concern, but I felt strangely calm. I knew I was okay, that what I had experienced was real and important. In the days that followed, I struggled to process everything that had happened. The intensity of the experience still reverberated through me. Sometimes I found myself crying for no apparent reason. Other times I found myself laughing with pure joy. The world around me felt different. The colors seemed more vivid, the sounds clearer. I could feel a connection to everything and everyone around me that I had never noticed before. I knew my life would never be the same again. I had been given a gift, a vision beyond the veil of everyday reality. And with that gift came a responsibility. Now, he had a mission to fulfill. a message to share with the world. The days that followed were a challenge. How do you explain an experience like that? How do you return to normal life once you have seen beyond the veil of reality? I didn't tell Elliot right away. How could I express in words something so vast, so incomprehensible? Elliot knew something had changed. He noticed my distant gaze, my moments of contemplative silence. He was patient, didn't pressure me, but I knew I needed to share at some point. I decided to reach out to Dr. Rachel Morgan, my doctor, who has always had a more holistic approach to health. To my surprise, she listened to me without judgment. She told me about other people who had gone through similar experiences and helped me integrate what I had experienced into my everyday life. Rachel introduced me to meditation techniques and encouraged me to write about my experience. Little by little, I began to find words to describe the indescribable. The writing process was therapeutic, helping me organize my thoughts and emotions. Over time, I began to accept my new reality. He began to accept it, even if he didn't fully understand it. My perception of the world had changed drastically. I could see the interconnectedness of all things, the beauty in every moment. Everyday worries seemed less important in the vastness of what I had experienced. At the same time, I felt a growing urgency. The date of August 2024 was always on my mind, a constant reminder of the mission entrusted to me. I knew I needed to start taking action, sharing what I had learned. Integration was a gradual, sometimes painful, but always transformative process. Each day brought new insights, new understandings. I was becoming a new person, aligned with a greater purpose. As I integrated my experience, my mission became clearer. I was supposed to help people reconnect with their true essence, to remember who they really are. It was preparation for what is to come. August 2024 kept ringing in my mind. I knew something significant would happen on that date, something that would change the course of humanity. My task was to prepare people for this change, to help them awaken to a greater reality. I started sharing my story, first with close friends, then in larger groups. Some people looked at me with skepticism, others with fascination. But the most important thing was that some people really listened, really felt the truth in my words. I started teaching meditation, talking about the importance of love and compassion, not as abstract concepts, but as real forces that can change the world. I spoke about the interconnectedness of all things, about how our actions affect the whole. I organized study and reflection groups. I invited people to explore their own spiritual experiences, to question their limiting beliefs. I saw people transform before my eyes, awakening to a deeper understanding of themselves and the universe. It wasn't an easy path. I faced resistance, ridicule, even hostility. But for every person who rejected me, there was another who opened up to this new perspective. And every time I saw the light of understanding in someone's eyes, I knew I was on the right path. My mission was not to convert anyone, but to plant seeds. Seeds of consciousness, of love, of understanding. I knew that not all of them would germinate immediately, but I trusted that, at the right time, they would bloom. As time passed, I felt like I was part of something bigger. I was not alone on this mission. I found others who had had similar experiences, who shared the same sense of urgency and purpose. Together we formed a network of light, paving the way for what was to come. Now, as I approach August 2024, I feel a mixture of anxiety and hope. I don't know exactly what will happen, but I know it will be a crucial moment for humanity. Every day is an opportunity to spread love, to help people prepare. Elliot, although still skeptical in some ways, has been a great support. He sees how this mission transformed me, how it brought purpose and meaning to my life. And, little by little, he is also opening up to these new possibilities. I know the road ahead will not be easy. There will be challenges. There will be those who don't understand or don't believe. But I also know that I am not alone on this journey. I feel the presence of the guiding souls with me. I feel the support of the universe in every step I take. As the date approaches, I intensify my efforts. I organize more workshops, write articles, speak at events. I try to reach as many people as possible with the message of love, unity, and preparation for change. Sometimes when I'm meditating, I get glimpses of what's to come. These are not clear visions, but sensations, intuitions. I feel that the change will be profound, that it will affect every aspect of our lives. It won't be easy, but it will be necessary for our collective evolution. I stay centered, grounded in the love and compassion I have experienced throughout my journey. I am constantly reminded of the interconnectedness of all things, of how each action, each thought, affects the whole. And so, as the days pass and we approach this pivotal moment, and I'm grateful to have a role to play in this great transformation, because in the end, that's what our journey here on Earth is all about: being love, transmitting love, and living in love, preparing us for the next step in our collective evolution.